Daf Chof Dalet Amud Beis, 3 lines from the top. We previously darshan the pasuk V'Basar Sheyiga V'Chol Tamei Lo Yeyochel. We darshan that pasuk to teach us that by Chametz Pesach and Shor Niskal it's also Bahana. Imena Inyan for the pasuk, that the context of the pasuk by Kodshim. Then we applied the Imena Inyan. We applied to teach us Isser Hana for Chametz and Shor Niskal. Now the Gemara is going to darshan this pasuk. We brought down this pasuk, so Agav, now the Gemara is going to darshan this pasuk. So the pasuk says, "V'Basar sheyiga b'chol tamei lo yeyochel ba'eish yisaref," and then it continues, "V'Basar kol Torah yochel basar." So for the Gemara, "V'Basar asher yiga b'chol tamei lo yeyochel dereisha lamali." Why do I need this V'Basar that it says at the beginning of the pasuk? It seems to be extra. It seems to be redundant. Why do I need it? To teach us l'rabas eitzim l'vayna. It comes to teach us that the eitzim that are burnt on the mizbeach and the maracha and the levayna, that this is also included in the iser, and they're also makabel tuma, and therefore there's also an iser to consume them. Now, normally we would say that eitzim, wood, is not makabel tuma. Raw materials are not makabel tuma. Oichlam are makabel tuma, and kalim are makabel tuma. But the eitzim, which is not an oichel, and levayna, which is not an oichel, people don't eat these things, so they would not be makabel tuma. The Chiddush over here, the review over here, is to teach us that these things are also makabel tuma. So we apply a principle of chibas hakodesh, that the chibas hakodesh is machsham to kabel tuma, the makabel tuma, and therefore it's included in the yisr, and therefore these things cannot be burnt on the mizbeach, and anyone who consumes it is oiver. There's machlokes rishonim. Is this a deraisa dekadin? Is it derabbanan dekadin? It's only an asmachta. That's the machlokes in the rishonim. So al kol panim v'abasar to be marbe the eitzim olevayna. Recting more v'abasar kol tor yochal. And so v'abasar kol tor yochal basar the seifa lamali. Well, I have the seifa, the pasuk that also says v'habasar, which seems to be redundant. It says v'habasar, that it says in the Seifa kol Torah yochal basar, that it says in the Seifa that it seems, so that's also extra. What do I need that for? It's to include a murim. The murim, the parts of the carbon that are burnt on the mizbeach, those parts is to be marbe in this isser as well. Meaning, if a person consumes them in addition to the yisr of the zar of zaros, because everybody is a zar legabe murim, even a kohen, no one is allowed to eat them. In addition to the yisr of zaros, there's also an yisr of tuma. So it's bimarba that they have over here this yisr of tuma. So l'chayra would seem to be unnecessary. Well, the basar is makabel tuma, and it's included in tuma. Why would I need a special reba for this? Says, because I would have applied the general principle that it's only something which is niter l'tahirim. Then, if a person eats it betuma, then the kachim betuma, he's over. But over here, the emurim is not niter l'tahirim. Nobody's allowed to eat it. Even if it's tar, no one is allowed to eat it. So I might have thought that there's no isser betuma. Kamash malan, the pasuk that no, there is an isser for the emurim. If they're tomei, there's an isser for eating it betuma. For the Gemara, emurim hasam nafka. We're learning out emurim from this pasuk. We learn out the isser of consuming emurim betuma from somewhere else. The Sanya we learn in the Baraisa, if a person eats from the basar from shlamim asher la Hashem, so it says asher la Hashem, what belongs to Hashem, l'rabba says emurim. That includes the emurim which are burnt on the mizbeach. It's asher la Hashem. So we learn out from there, from the Gemara, Hasam to Masago Pikaris. That's referring to the case where not when the emurim become Tommy. Over there, it's referring to the case where the person was Tommy, the emurim mator. The person eating it is Tommy, and the punishment over there is Karis. But over here, it's talking where the emurim are Tommy, the basar is Tommy, not the person. And there's no Karis over here, there's a lav. So now the Gemara is going to introduce a different topic and a a topic that's in general throughout the Kol Torah Kula. If a person consumes things that are Isser, or gets hana from things which are also, is it only in the normal way, or even in shalei kederach, even in the abnormal way? Amar Rabbi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Kol Isum Shebetzaira and Leikim Alem Ela Derech Achilosa. The malchus that a person would get for consuming them is only in the normal way, if they're consumed in the normal way. Limute mai, what is this coming to exclude? Amarav shemi barashi limute shimochal chelev chai shepotter. If a person ate raw chelev, it's potter. People don't eat chelev which is raw; they eat it cooked. So the Torah says it's also to eat chelev. The malchus is only derech achilosan, only if he eats it derech achilosan. If it's not derech achilosan, if it's not in the normal way, then he's not like he doesn't get malchus for that. The Torah says a lashon of loiseichel, don't eat it. So eating, as Rav Chana explains, eating is the normal way is defined as eating. If it's not in the normal way, it's not defined as eating. Like all Yitzurim Shabbat the Torah, when it answers something, the definition of it is in the normal way. A malach on Shabbos is only in the normal way. It's not shalei kederach, that's not defined as a malacha. Eating a positive chiyuv of eating matzah on Pesach is only in the normal way. This is not defined as eating. So therefore, if it's shalei kederach achil, is not like Ikadam, some say a different version. All these Yisurim Shabbatayra that ain't loikanam ela der hana also. Where there's an isra hana, where the Torah asks something bahana, it's only also he only gets malchus for them derech hana also, only if it's in the normal way. So there's machlekes rishonim. What does this mean here? It says in loikim, does it mean that there's only malchus when it's a kederach? If it's shaloi kederach, there's no malchus, but there's an isser. Or perhaps midaraisa, there's no isser at all. Not only there's no malchus and not even isser, there's an isser d'Rabbanan. Or some say there's no isser whatsoever, not even d'Rabbanan. The lashon over here is there's no malchus, so therefore it leaves it open to some dispute about what about the Isser. Is there an Isser involved or not, or is it only where there's a Ptur and Malchus? So that's the machlekes rishonim. So the first version said that by Achila, he's only like if he eats it kederach Achila and not shaloi kederach Achila. This version is that he only gets Malchus on Hano where there's Isser Hano if it's kederach. Limute mai, so what is this coming to exclude? Amar shemi barashi, limute shemi niya chelav sharshoa niskal agabi makosa shopoter. If a person put the fat the chelav shar niskal, which is also bano, he put it on his wound, he's poter. That's not the normal use for chelav. It's not normally used for refuah. So they said that it's poter in such a case. V'kol shekain oichel chelav chai shu poter. And certainly a kal v'chaimer that if he eats the chelev chai, that if he eats raw chelev, whether it's a shor and niskal or not, but he eats raw chelev, which a chelev is also b'achila, that he's patur. If when there's isra no, he's only like where it's derech hano. And certainly if it would be the case of oichel by achila, certainly is patur. So the one way of learning it is, and the Ram Chalva learns that what's the kol shekain? Because we only know this inyan of kederech, that it has to be in the normal way, is from the Yisurim of Achila. The Torah says don't eat it, and as explained, that's not called Achila. Hana is derived from the Yisur of Achila. So if we say therefore that Hana, it has to be derech Hana, kol shekain, that we say that Achila, that it has to be there, because Achila is really the source of this whole inyan, that it has to be Kederach. That's one way of learning. Another way of learning, which is mashma from Rashi that way, is that the shaloi Kederach between the Achila of Chelev and the Hana, putting the Chelev on the wound, are totally different, or fundamentally different rather. That by the case of the Achila, people don't eat raw chelev. So it's something that is abnormal. Now, putting chelev on a wound is not an abnormal act. It's just that the primary use for chalev is consumption, is eating, and not medicinal, not for refuah. But if a person has a wound, most people don't, but if a person has a wound, and then it's common to put chalev on the wound. But everybody eats. And those who eat chalev, but it's not normal, it's abnormal to eat raw chalev. So that's considered at the higher level of shaloi kederach. So madach, in the case where you say by the refuah, by the chalev al gabe makosa, we say this potter because it's shaloi kederach hana, even though it's not that degree of shaloi kederach, your potter kol shekain. In the case of eating raw chalev, where it's a higher degree of shaloi kederach, certainly you'll be potter. Yadmanami, Amarav Achabarav, Amaravasi, Amarav Yechanan, Heniach, Helashel, Shor Haniskal Gabe Makosa Potter, Lafisha Koli Serum Shibatera, and like an Alem Aladachana also. Amar Arabi Zeravanami Tanina, we also learn from the following Mishnah. Ein Saif Genes Har Boy Mishum Orla, a person for drinking orla, for consuming orla, the fruit from the first 3 years of the tree, which is also, you only get malkas ela yotzim and azeisim and novim blavad. If we're talking about juice, we're talking about fruit that applies to all kinds of fruit. But if we're talking about the juice, it only applies to zeisim and anovim, only to olives and grapes, because in those days that was olives and grapes were planted for the juice. Other fruit were not planted for the juice. They were planted to be eaten. So even if the person happened to squeeze out some juice from it, but that's not the primary use of the fruit. So it says that malchus we get is only on juice, which is comes but as far as the juice that flows from berries or figs or pomegranates, loy, he's not high. My time, why do we make this distinction? What's the chilek? La mishum delukayachlo derechana osan. Isn't it that psur because he's not doing it derechana osan, because the normal way of hana from it is for eating, not for squeezing out for the juice. So doesn't that show you this chilek, that this is considered shaloi kederach your potum? Amarle Abaya, no. If you had told me the fruit itself, that you would not eat it in the normal way, for instance, you would boil the fruit. Now, normal way to eat the fruit is to eat it raw. And if you'd happen to take the fruit and boil it, so then you'd be showing me that something is a fruit and you're eating it in an abnormal way. Then you would have a riot. That would be correct. Then shaper, that would be correct. Aval hacha, but over here, I'll tell you the patur is not because it's shaloi kederach, because al hacha mishum dezeh ba'almu, because the juice is considered zeh ba'alma, literally like sweat, like a secretion. It's not considered the fruit, meaning the Torah answered the fruit. This is not considered to be the fruit. It's not considered. It's not part of the Isser of Orla. So you have no raya from here. Perhaps it would be the fruit itself, even if it would be shaloi kederach, it would be eaten in an abnormal way, in an unusual way. Maybe you would talk to be chai. You have no raya. Maybe the ptur over here is because in these cases, if it's not grapes or olives, the juice is not considered the fruit, so it's not included in the Yisr Vorlam. So there's no raya. Amar Abaya says a kol meidim kalaya kerem, but everybody agreed that in the Yisr of kalaya kerem, as far as kalayim, that grapes were planted and wheat was planted together with grapes and in the vineyard, so that kalayim shaloikin aleim afilu shaloi kederach hanos, and over there, even the shaloi kederach, there you are loike. There, even if it's shaloi kederach, you're like my time. Why should I say that? What's the distinction? It doesn't say achila over there. As we mentioned, the patur shaloi kederach is something where it says achila, and shaloi kederach is not achila. But the Yisr of kalayim, the Torah doesn't say don't eat kalayim. The Torah says a loshon of pen tikdash hamalaya. It's pen tikdash, that it'll be tikdash, meaning something which is removed from you, separated from you, that you can't access, that you have no access to. So the Isser of it is not don't eat it, it's pentikdash. So therefore, it's not implied in that it has to be achila. So therefore, even shaloika derech achila, everyone agrees that you would be chayiv in the case of kalaya kerem. Meisvel asks you a kasha, isi ben Yehuda minayin lebasar b'cholav shu also. How do I know that basar b'cholav meat and milk is also? How do I know that it's also for achila? The Torah by basar b'cholav doesn't say don't eat it. It says that you can't cook it, that it's an issur of cooking. How do I know that there is an issur of eating that meat that was cooked with milk? So the Torah says, so never kan ki am kodesh atam. It says legabe the bishul of that the issur of being bevashal basar b'cholav together. It says it's also to do it because you are an am kodesh, you're a holy nation. So it says a lashon of am kodesh, v'nemer lahalan, and it says legabe treifa v'anshe kodesh tiyumli, that you'll be for me an anshe kodesh. Ma lahalan also, just like by treifa, it's also ba'achila. There's an isra achila. Avkan legabe basar b'cholav, then it's also b'chila. So you learn out from there, from the fact that it says kodesh, that is also b'achila. Ve'enli ala b'achila. Now I only know that it would be a asr b'achila. Bahano minayin. How do I know that it's also bahano as well, even for benefit, not only for consumption? Amr kal v'chaymer. So kal v'chaymer. Ma la'orla shlei nevda v'avera. The orla, the fruit from the orla, no avera was done. A person planted a tree. It happens that Torah aser the fruit of the first 3 years, but it's not mikoyach avera. That's the natural growth and the natural derech. Yet the Torah aser, even though there was no avera done in its creation, so ma or l'shloi nev l'ba'avera aser bahana, and yet it's also bahana. Basar b'cholav shenev l'boy avera, basar b'cholav, where an avera was done in its creation, the cooking of the two together was done through an avera, and dinchi also bahana. So kal v'chaymer, it should be also bahana. So as far as how that relates to our previous discussion by Kalaya Kerem, Bez Hashem, we'll see in the next Amud.